and we spent wisely on the tech stuff. But then that almost makes it you're almost setting yourself up for a fall, because unless you've got a much bigger budget for getting eyeballs on screen and getting versions, it's kind of pointless. Honestly, every kind of startup failure, every kind of startup learning is a learning for different reasons. So damn useful, and that should never be discounted. The end of the road is not the end of that road. That's just like the end of a chapter. I know I sound like my mum, because she'd always say things like this.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of How Do You End Up Doing That with me, Alex Jeffers. This podcast is all about speaking to people about the jobs they've ended up doing and what got them into doing it, because usually people have got a bit of a story to tell about how they ended up doing what they're currently doing if it's slightly out of the ordinary. This week's episode is with Miles Cook, who works as a senior technical consultant, a race car instructor, and manages a co-working space in Cwmbran. I've known Miles for years now, and we've worked together on a few projects, but he still surprised me with some of his work's history and how certain jobs and experiences have affected his mental health and attitude toward what he's been working on. I recorded this at the end of 2023, and I haven't put it out yet until now, because towards the end of the episode we start talking about a startup called Porter. I mentioned about speaking to Gary from Porter the next week, and it's taken 2 months, but I finally got the call booked in with Gary for next week. So hopefully all will go well, and that will be indeed the next episode. If you listen to this and you've got any comments or feedback, anything you'd like to say to me really, feel free to drop me an email to alex@howdyu.com. That's HOWDYOU.com. And I'll take a look at any emails that come across, and hopefully I can get back to you with some answers. So let's get stuck into our conversation with Miles. Cheers! Miles, for jumping on a call with me today to look at, I guess, your career path and progression from what you did in your early days going up to where you are now, which I have written down as senior software consultant, co-working space owner, 3D printer. Not you, you are not a 3D printer.
No, not true. Yeah.
Like a 3D printerist, I guess.
Possibly, whatever.
Like a detectorist. And also a race car instructor. So quite a varied set of skills there.
It sounds quite eclectic, though, you read it as. But yeah, this is where we are.
I feel like, because I've known you for quite a while now, and I've known there's always been a bit of eccentricity in a lot of what you've done.
Is it? Okay, interesting.
I'd say so. Some of the projects we've worked on together have been a little out there.
Yeah.
Compare the casket.
Not for this podcast.
Yeah, maybe not.
Probably not. Have to wait another 10 years. But
maybe. There's some NDAs there, I'm sure. Quite a lot of odd stuff there. So I guess if we let's start, unlike Star Wars, start at the beginning, not in the middle.
Okay.
And sort of tell us a bit about school and what subjects you studied at school, how you went from there to leaving, what you did at that point.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll touch on the farm, because you found that interesting. Just both chatting now. I grew up on a farm for about 7 years. So that was a decent chunk of my life. Learned how to cut bracken and feed animals and prep wood and stuff. And anyway, school happened. Nothing remarkable, but obviously I went through to. At that point, I was kind of in my head, especially going into college. I had 2 ideas: either go into journalism or software engineering. You probably didn't know that about me.
No.
I went to experience for the South Wales Guardian, wrote about the Cardiff Summer Festival, gave the thing in to the guy, and he put it out without any changes. I'm like, did he even read it?
Wow.
And in A-levels, I did French because it was easy for me, because my mum and my stepdad moved to France when I was 14. So I was good at French.
Can you speak French now?
I can do, but not for this podcast. If you really want me to, I'll get extra money for that. No. I've completely lost my train of thought.
So you were in France. Did your A-levels, French A-levels?
No, I'm sorry. I did French for A-levels.
Yes.
Computer science and communication studies, because those two strands of my career. In fact, when I was really young, I wanted to be an airline pilot and a taxi driver because my dad was a taxi driver, and I thought that's cool to get to drive cars, but also I'd like to fly. When you look back, Nick, I want to be when you look back and you think airline pilot and taxi driver, yeah, that'd be an interesting career mix there. But anyway, I still have a flying lesson booked, but that's now gone postponed. But I will take that off the bucket list. One day, I went into, the story of me, why I went into engineering, which has been my career, most of it, is everybody had yellow UCAS forms. You had to fill out yellow UCAS forms. I didn't even know what a UCAS form was. Turns out it was to go to university. You have to pick one. Do I? Yeah, probably. Okay, fine. And I was like, oh, actually, what am I doing next year? Somebody said, well, computer scientists, software engineers, they make loads of money. I went, all right, I'll do that then. And that was literally why I went software engineering, because it was on the day I needed to make a choice what I was doing. Picked up 3 universities that ranked them in order of what they wanted. Aberystwyth was at the top. I didn't quite get the grades for Aber, but actually they put me in anyway. Went to Aberystwyth University, and I stayed at Aberystwyth for about 10 years. Lovely place. Once it gets hold of you, you never want to leave. And I guess that is a very disjointed whirlwind tour of my education, at least. Mm-hmm. What have I missed out on there? What bits do we need to go into?
I think we've covered off where we did school happening, A-levels being there, university, going to ABBA. I think that covers off. So software engineering, did you complete the degree in software engineering?
Yeah, I did. It got turned into a computer science degree because there was loads of maths in engineering, and didn't really like that. But, got it done, and then went to work in the 24-hour spa, where I became a very small celebrity local town legend for a couple of years because I'm the guy that's working in spa. Because it's a small town mentality. It doesn't take much to be famous there. Like everywhere you go, oh, you're the guy that works in spa. Yeah. So I learned about retail.
Nice.
Which is interesting.
I have a very similar, well, not that I went to uni, but my days of working in Subway, I became Subway man.
There we go then.
From growing up in Bridgend and selling sandwiches to everyone. I was the guy who worked in Subway. And had almost a cult-like following of, sort of emo kids.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Like everybody else is going to be thinking what they used to go on, but yeah, it's small town mentality.
Including one guy who said, it was like, what's your name? I was like, that's Jeffers. It's like, is that Jeffers with a J or Jeffers with a Q? I was like, oh, a Q? And he went,
why not?
Why not? I went, Queffers then. And for a good year with this one group of people, I was named as Queffers.
Excellent.
Yeah. But no, I
shall love that.
Similarly remember the guys who worked in Spa being like, can we get served from that guy? Yes, we can, because he thinks I'm 18.
I was too straight down the middle, and I was like, no. Yeah. It's about a year and a half, a couple of years maybe, of me just doing retail. That was meant to be like a stopgap until I went into my career. Mm-hmm. And then I got bored of the stopgap, went to look properly for work. My then girlfriend at the time was like, well, hang on a second, because I was looking at places to work in Cardiff, because there's not much engineering work in Aberystwyth, funnily enough. No, it wasn't at the time. And she said, well, you're not moving to Cardiff. I said, okay, well, I'll start a business. So that's where Cookie Online, the first iteration, came along.
Okay.
Because I knew nothing about business. I know marginally a bit more now, but not that much. Went on a week crash course at the university, put on for free. Got some European KEF scholarship money, which I was actually that's a long story. So I applied for about 6 or 7 grand, which would sounded like loads of funding for business, which was my flogging websites business. Mm-hmm. Got the funding, but at the time I was also going for Army officer selection and going through all that process to go to Sandhurst. And when the guy said you finally got the scholarship, I said, well, I've changed my mind. And he said, well, just take the money anyway. I said, well, I can't do that. That doesn't feel genuine. And then I was like, well, actually, I'll see how it goes. Do it for a year, see if I can make it work. Stupid idea. I've never really got good advice because I've probably never sought any advice. But yeah, I wish I could have taken a different route, because obviously you want to do army stuff when you're young. I did the reserves for a few years. So that was, that kind of scratched that itch a bit. But I did the business, got pulled into it. Started to really enjoy it because it was quite a big challenge for me. As you probably remember from your early days, and it was like trying to pull in. I was okay. I could do the work, but finding the work, I was awful. I was good at, even though I'm not a networker, I'm not a natural networker. I've had to learn how to do it. I'm not very good at people. I'm an engineer. What do you expect? But I've managed to teach myself how to be better with people. And the work that I was getting bits of work through networking, and that was and it was starting to grow. I think the landmark job I did at the time was it was like an eBay for sheep. It was some farmer, really top bloke up the sticks somewhere. He was working with the meat promotion board, and they gave us a budget to project manage some digitization of sheep sales between farmers, and they put in some really interesting details about egg count, and that's not sheep eggs, that's in their feces and stuff, and it was like very, very bespoke. I don't think you put it on eBay now, but it was, it was like my first big job, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And I decided to go to Bristol to grow the business, because people say, no, Bristol, it's where tech is really, really good and stuff. Except I was on an army course down in Cardiff. Can't remember what it was, but I met up with some friends after an international, rugby international, and I decided there and then, no, I'm going to Cardiff instead. Because the thing is, I being from Swansea Valley, Cardiff are like, oh, we don't talk to them. It's such more petty-mindedness, and I was like there thinking, actually, this is quite a nice place. Maybe I could see myself moving here. Asked a friend of mine, do you know of any rooms going? He said, well, yeah, there's one in our house. I was like, right, okay, I'll take it. I'll come down to Cardiff then. And then for the first few months, hated it.
Right.
Can I tell you this story? I mean, is this R-rated or anything, or is this?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, right, okay. Let me give you an example of how this person from like a farm in the Swansea Valley, then Aberystwyth, which is not exactly like cosmopolitan, dealt with Cardiff. So I'm walking, because it was in Sploss, right, off the magic roundabout, Sankohar Street, okay? And, literally, I think on the first evening, I went for a little walk, and the lady said, hello, love, have you got a cigarette? Have you got a light? You can see where this is going. I said, oh, I haven't, sorry. Oh, okay. Bear in mind, I'd gone down there to move my business down to Cardiff. And she went, right, do you want any business? And for a split second, my head was like, how did she know? Like, how did she know? I was like, I couldn't think of anything to say. So, no, I'm all right, thanks. Obviously, now I know what the business was, but then it's like...
Wow. Okay.
But the thing is, I'd actually gone there for a bit of life experience, like Merthyr Tydfil aside. It was like, well, I might as well go into a city, and I hated it for a few months. And I even remember talking to my mum saying, I think this is a terrible decision on the phone. And she said, well, stick at it. So it goes. Eventually, I started to realise, well, actually, it's got its benefits as well. Not the business lady advisor, whatever it was.
I don't think she was an advisor. I think she was very hands-on, Miles.
Very much so. Probably, yeah.
So was there a thing then after, you've come from Swansea Valley, Aberystwyth, you've come to Cardiff, you don't like it. Was there a moment or something in your head that's made you think, actually, I do like this. This is quite great. I love being in the city. Or was it?
Probably, yeah. I can think of one. Walking, because I had in Aberystwyth, there was something called Chrysalis Germinator, which is a really, really cheap office space. I mean, it was like enough room for like 3 people and swinging a cat just about. But I decided, right, I'm going to have an office space in Cardiff, somewhere in Regis, which is down the bay somewhere. But I'd walk down there, and I'd walk through the Dragon Centre. And one day I was walking through the Dragon Centre, passing a new Alfa Romeo 159, which I still want to get because they should be reasonably cheap now. I'm thinking, I really want one of those. But I suddenly realised, hang on a second, I'm walking in the Dragon Centre. There's a cool car. It's a showroom. I know it's a small thing, but it suddenly sort of dawned on me. This is a bit better than Aberystwyth, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got this pleasant walk, new car, Dragon Centre. Oh, the Chinese buffet. I took a client there. I don't think they were expecting all the Chinese buffet for a business meal, but it worked. They loved it. They said, we're coming back here again. The Oriental Garden, which is unfortunately closed.
It has now, yeah. I remember
Gutted.
when there were a lot when I was younger. That all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet. That was
amazing.
As a child, or early teen, I remember that being like the peak of luxury. Was the all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet down the bay? Like nothing can get better than this. It's all-you-can-eat Chinese food.
Yeah, it's really good quality as well. And there was like little bits like going out and seeing some friends in town after work, and then just like staying there all night because you forget to go home. I can't remember the places, but like not even that special places. But there were. It's just okay, this is more. There's more going on here. It's more interesting, mind you. Aberystwyth is the only place that feels like home to me. Still to this day, I could go back there and just be in mental bliss. I would look back because it still feels homely. But yeah, I started to realise actually, there's more going on in Cardiff. I quite like it, but then suddenly I moved.
Yeah,
which we'll get to if you like.
Well, I was going to say, how did you find the move from the business side of things? So you've moved your business from Aberystwyth down to Cardiff. Did you kind of bring any of your old clients with you? Just sort of like arrive in Cardiff and go, hello, it's me.
Yeah, stand in the middle of St Mary Street with Cwmbran. I did some networking again. I think whatever the precursor was to Unified Diff. I think it's the same. Was it in the same building? I went to some events. I started speaking to people. Started to pick up bits and pieces of work. Even like some people in the house. And there's a business guy. I got some work through him. Not very well, but then. We're only talking like a few £100 a month.
Okay.
Because I wasn't very good at finding work, but also I was doing part-time army stuff, which was another few £100 a month. And you combine the both, and you've got a wage of sorts with no dependents and cheap. It's kind of like it's doable.
Yeah,
and if beer tokens at the end of the week.
Exactly. Back in those days, living in a shared house in Cardiff, you only really needed a few hundred. It wasn't massively expensive.
Basically, yeah.
I'm thinking about when I first moved to Cardiff. I was living on like £800 a month back in 2012, and it would enough money to pay the rent, go out for a few beers. Couldn't go on all day, but it was fine. It was great. It was a freedom. I was living in the big city, and that's what I really wanted.
Yeah, it was a slightly special time because it was good fun. I had a few friends, so there was some social avenues. There was bits of enough to keep me ticking over, and I was youngish and didn't have a care in the world. I was loving things, I remember my girlfriend saying, "Yes, but hang on a second, you don't know if you've got work on next month. You don't know if you're going to get any money." And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. I'm sure somebody's doing that."
Something like that.
If not, the rent will have to be a month late. But who cares?
If I turn up to enough things and talk to enough people, someone will eventually give me work. I guess from that, obviously doing the Cookie Online stuff. There was, I guess, the first time I really knew you was when Blurt was a thing. So was there an intermediary step between?
Yeah, we're missing a chapter. So if you remember, like the 2008 in the middle of the year, like Woolworths went to the wall, and people were asking me, "Oh, how's the business?" So actually, it's fine. It doesn't think it's affected me. Maybe because it's it's more consumers. B2B stuff is fine. I had a backlog of jobs to kind of get cracking on, and I went in. Like I remember in January coming back, and usually in January for me, I don't know about you, but January seems to be a good month for work because people either go through the yellow pages literally than they used to. Find, right, we need a web developer. We know this. Let's just get it rolling.
Yeah.
And the phone is usually off the hook. That didn't happen. It's like, oh, that's no problem. I've got like another three or so things that we've kind of talked about end of last year. Let's get cracking. And I'm actually going to these people for all these bits of work that we said, yeah, let's do that. And then I was like, actually, can we put it off for 6 or 9 months? So I went to my like nuclear option. She's a lovely lady who used to do like psychology e-learning material as well.
Mm-hmm.
She did the materials. I made it e-learning because she had a gig lined up with like HSBC, I think, to do some really good, I guess, mental health stuff, except it wasn't really known as mental health back then because we didn't really know what mental health was. And it was all about like your peak performance and managing stress levels and stuff. So I guess, yeah, there's probably a bigger category for it now. And I called her up and she said, I'm so sorry, I've been meaning to call you. But I just couldn't face it. They put it off, put the project off for 9 months. And I was like, oh, hang on a second. If this is the trend, I'm a bit screwed. And I, on MSN, as you did back in the day, messaged my friend and said, yeah, I'll come up for lunch, but I'm a bit worried because, you know, all my work seems to be drying up. And he said, mate, I've told you, get on Monster, get your CV out there, get a proper job. So I did. Went for a Subway down near Makey, as it happens. And then came back and was like, my inbox was just like flooded and missed voice messages because I was pitching myself as a junior software engineer who'd run his own business and only wanted like pittance for wages. I mean, like, what did I know? But then it turned out that I had a very quick, literally that was one day. By the following week, 7 days later, I'd already had 3 interviews, and that evening I'd had a job offer.
Right.
And it was literally, so, you know, because I remember telling one recruiter, no, I've already got a job interview that day. And he was like, where is it? I said, Maidenhead, I think. Oh, well, this one's in Bristol. I'm sure you could do 2 in one day. I was like, yeah, but then I've got to sleep somewhere in London to go up to Cambridge the next day. And it was like, I spent my, a couple of days on the road. The Cambridge place offered me, lovely company doing health and safety software. Mm-hmm. I then that was my first proper job. It was basically people like that managing agents that run big commercial property like shopping centres or the Shard or something.
Okay.
The managing agents that actually run it, they all their statutory inspections and actions and stuff have to be recorded, and they would do that on software, which was a bit novel at the time, which meant they could easily prove their compliance much better and save loads of time.
Yeah.
But they not get sued as much because they can prove that they've done all their statutory work.
Yeah.
But that took Cambridgeshire. There was like a new adventure that was quite cool. I remember going up in the old Audi AT thinking, this is cool. I'm moving again. I like change. And if I can deal with business advisors as Splot, I'm sure I could deal with, Cambridge. Posh people. I'm sure it'd be fine. So I went to work there for, and I stayed in the area for 3.5 years. Still miss it a bit.
And that was, I guess, when would this have been? What year? Like 2008?
So January, literally 1st of February 2009, till I went for a coffee with Ivana because I hadn't seen Ivana for ages. I still haven't left for that coffee. We've been together 10 years, and then a couple of kids later. Coffee's probably a bit cold by now.
Yeah,
but,
probably.
Yeah. So the Cambridgeshire job, lovely little company. But then obviously when I went for my coffee, a few months later, suddenly Matthew was on the cards, my first son, and I was like, oh, crap. So, they were really accommodating to begin with. Mm-hmm. And I remember the managing director, she's a lovely lady, mad as a box of frogs, telling me, you're coming you're coming with me for a walk with the dogs. And she was like trying to convince me, no, bring her up here. Don't go. And I think we eventually settled on, well, okay, maybe I could work remotely. I mean, this is 2013, and with a slightly, with not a tech company, just like a bog standard company. Yeah. So that was pretty wild back then. We tried to do the remote working thing. It kind of wasn't working because it's possibly a bit of politics. But yeah, I was trying to do a job, but people were kind of doing it for me up at the office.
Right.
And I couldn't see that because I'm coming in and going, right, this is what we want to do. Because I kind of changed my job into like part-time programmer, mostly project manager, because I thought that would be my next career step, right? I went to, did a project management course. I was like, right, I'm going to project manage the second version of our flagship software. Because by this time, I'd gone from like junior engineer to senior engineer to having my own pet programmer to mentor in about 3 years. And I kind of thought, well, okay, it's next stage now. I was probably in a bit of a hurry. But yeah, the project management stuff didn't quite work out. I would hoped it worked out. And I was getting a bit, it started to sour a little bit, which is unfortunate. But anyway, these things happen. And I looked for work because obviously by this point I'd moved down to Swansea with Ronna, and I was looking for work. Found this position at Blurt, which was in Newport at the time.
Oh, okay.
Started off in Newport, somewhere in like a business loft or something.
So for anyone who doesn't, probably most people, because Blurt is no more now. But for anyone listening who doesn't know what Blurt was, do you want to give a bit of a recap on that?
Well, even people at the time had no idea what we were talking about.
I'll be honest, I didn't fully understand it when I first heard Jason talk.
We were rubbish at selling it, but also it was a bit like, basically we said we can tell you the sentiment of your social media, and people, how's that help? Whereas what I would say now is we can give you, we can show you your social engagement. But also let you drill into topics, see what's positive, what's resonating well, what's not resonating well. We can show you over time how it's improving. The funny thing was, I came on board as a programmer. I said within a few days, what's my job title? I mean, we need a chief technical officer. That's what I see on other startups. That's what they have. And Jason went, yeah, that's fine. I'll do. I didn't fully, completely comprehend what the role entailed. The first board meeting, the first time I went to a board meeting was not for like a year and a half. But now I probably understood the role. I loved that role. That's my favorite role to date. Well, one is quite close. But yeah, like flying by the seat of my pants, just going, I've got this responsibility. Crap, what do I do? Well, I think I need to do this. I need to do that. Generally, most of the decisions went well, fortunately. But it was like, wow, I've got all this responsibility. This is quite scary, but so cool because I love a challenge.
Yeah.
And that was a hell of a challenge. I'm probably never going to have that kind of challenge, the scale of challenge again.
Because you were like scraping Twitter, the whole of Twitter. You were analysing.
I think the technical challenge was there, but it was also like I've got to recruit. I've never, I've got to decide the strategy of our tech for this company, and I've got to get it right. If I screw this up, we haven't got a lot of money. It's like, and I've got to make decisions on. Got engineers saying this, other engineers saying that, and like I've got to make a call. I loved it, absolutely loved it, and kind of learned the job by osmosis. I just did what needed to be done. And everything started to fall in place. And I think because I was generally wanting things to be done the right way by tech and people, stuff went okay. Obviously I learned lessons along the way with people management. Of course you do. That's probably how you learn, unless you have a really good mentor, which I probably never have. I never had at that point. My favorite bit was Twitter came to us to say, right, obviously EU referendum stuff. We want on referendum night, we want to show, because they worked with us before, they knew what we could do, and they'd introduce us to people. We want to show that live on screens on ITV News through the coverage. And we were like, okay. So as all those tweets came in, like Robbo was the guy, the media guy, the ITV News went to him and he showed our screen, which, to be honest, was only a web browser, and he had like a remote trackpad where you could use the finger swipes and swipe over to the next tab, which was another web browser, which was the other screen. Bit lo-fi tech, but yeah, it works. He wanted like a proper solution. We're like, sorry, in the time we can't do that. We can give you tabs, we can give you web browser tabs, but yeah, we wanted him to like show some emotion stuff, but they were like really conservative because it's live TV. You're very ultra conservative on live TV.
Yeah,
I mean, probably these days, or certainly like YouTube, nobody care. But you know, it had to look very boring, very very safe and stuff. Anyway, but
the level of stuff that Blur could do, just like
it was awesome. It was a little bit before its time, unfortunately. Story of my life. But also, we did not have enough sales nous and commercial nous, really. Jason, bless him, you know, he took it quite far. Fair play. I don't think I could have done that. But he was a lawyer. When you tell people as a lawyer, like, you know, this is a story, if they don't care or believe you, well, that's their problem. When you try and sell stuff, you don't just say, oh, you don't want it. Okay, no problem. You know, we'll come back later. You know, we did get some salespeople, especially one in the industry, was a proper salesperson, Scott, and bless him, he was brilliant, but he was just too late. And we just ran out of money and ran out of investor patience. But it was a bloody good product, and that was my first startup. Loved it. And built my first proper team as well, and it was a great team. I love that team.
So, you know, it's pretty great to go in there from just engineer. Presumably you got it, you know, through like Monster, Indeed, like one of these.
Something like that, yeah. Well, in fact, it was an interview with Dan and Cargie, and they said for PHP Genie, and they were like, actually, this role is a bit too junior for you, but how would you like to work on side project? I was like, oh, that sounds cool.
Okay, fair enough. So yeah, to go from that to then, like building up your whole team, building this product, which you're dealing directly with Twitter. You've got TV coverage on ITV Evening News. It's amazing. So then I guess, you know, obviously the company folded, everyone got made redundant by the end of it. So get from there, you went back to freelancing, didn't you? Or did you?
A little bit, yeah, no, a little bit actually. I mean, in the twilight years of Blurt, obviously because I shut down Cookie Online a few years ago, but for sentimental value, when I thought maybe I should go freelance, maybe I should do the business again, I set up Cookie Online Limited, Part 2. So it's not the original company number, unfortunately, but it's Cookie Online again. And I did bits and pieces, and I got burnt with some invoices not being paid, and then worked out how to get them paid, which I think we've spoken about.
Yeah.
Moneycollectionsonline.gov. I don't think it exists anymore, but it was bloody effective. Especially if they ignore the correspondence, then they're screwed.
Yeah.
So top tip: pay your invoices. But it was like such because by this time, point, young kids, and it was like, this is scary. I can't hack this. At the time, it was scary, and I jumped into the first job I could find, which is Cwmbran. Bit of a weird start to that job, because I've gone from like startup CTO to senior engineer. After 9 months or so, I'm like, this enterprise level stuff that you use, this Microsoft stuff, is garbage. Absolute pants. And also, in their world, this is grown up at enterprise architecture. No, it's just about like, why write one line of code when you can write 10? I mean, this is just bonkers. And why do I keep being told, oh yeah, this is a bug, it's just a known Microsoft bug, this is a known problem, this is a known. So I went there thinking I knew nothing and I was here to learn the grown-up way. I left there thinking, yeah, I'm glad I've done that, but I feel much, much wiser knowing what the reality is actually like.
Yeah. GoCo, again, you got made redundant from GoCo, was it?
It did. I mean, before that, it was a bit weird because I got put in this kind of dumped on some projects which were again quite a challenge, like the whole company CMS, because nobody else wanted to do it. So I said, I'll do it. Yeah, learned a bit about enterprise CMSs and what happens when your SEO drops just a few percent. Turns out it's quite bad on companies with like millions and millions of turnover.
Yeah.
Drop a few percent.
Yeah. A couple of percent
That
then
was
becomes
our
hundreds of
fault,
thousands of pounds.
yeah, it wasn't our fault. It's just just one of those things of not all the right pieces evaluating things properly at the right time with enough information and stuff. They had no idea this was even possible. They were just because simple, like silly technical things where Google says, that's not really ideal. So you're going to drop your score a couple of points because you're not doing redirects in situ. You're redirecting somewhere and then redirecting to the error page. Silly little things like that.
Oh, okay.
Cost quite a lot of money. So yeah, I learned a bit about SEO there and all that kind of stuff. But eventually, because the thing is, I was brought into GoCo for my startup experience. Initially, it was like, well, we're thinking, which was code for we are going to, of growing by acquisition. So they put a few companies, and I was just there to kick my heels until they did, and then I could help out with my kind of startup experience.
Yeah.
The jobs the kind of role that I say was my second favorite was a couple of roles around taking on a couple of those acquisitions. Again, flying by the seat of my pants. I love this. So there was a company that I was told by the CTO at the time. I quite like a short brief. Your task is to integrate this team, don't break them, right? Who are they? So energy company up in Scotland, where the whole company only had about 30, 40 people, I think, and about 11 engineers, and their thing was kind of being able to switch your energy supplier, but also like give you a quote and stuff. So you would call them up and say, I think I'm paying too much for my energy, and they would kind of take you through it and then go, right, we can switch you. But they had the software which a lot of the suppliers use themselves, the energy suppliers. Yeah. And it's really weird because you would call one of the energy suppliers to switch, and they would pass you straight onto ELX to switch for them.
Right.
Anyway,
okay.
But they were like quite intrinsic in that big machine. They were an important cog. So GoCo went, we'll have you, because they had ideas and they wanted to do not just, obviously they were going into they do price comparison for car insurance. Why not energy as well? So that was part of the plan. So, but anyway, this engineering team, I love explaining this. First of all, everything was very Wild West. It was very much like the CEO wants this by yesterday, then the next day wants something else, and then the next day. I mean, bless him, he was probably trying harder and harder to push things forward, and the team was just in flipping, flat space, just producing stuff which was breaking, and then one was trying to manage it all and manage expectations. Okay. One was in Surrey, one was in Ohio in the States, 3 were in the Czech Republic. The German was in Spain. I mean, it was like they were all over the world, and most of them had never met each other in their lives. Okay. And we were like, okay, come over to the office, and then we saw some of the relationships pan out, and we were like, okay, maybe bring them together might not be the best idea, but anyway, it was let's actually get them talking. Let's try and resolve some differences, some not technical debt, but I don't know, relationship debt. And it was fun, because we had to kind of hammer that team in some sort of shape, kind of align them to what we were doing, but I was trying to be diplomatic because I didn't actually want them to do how we were doing things, but I wanted them to get close enough so I could say, there we go, I've done as much as I can, because the way we were doing things was just bureaucracy mad. Let's record the same thing in about 3 different systems. Anyway, so I didn't want that. But yeah, I had to kind of make a show that I got them more on track. But I just wanted them to run as efficiently as I could. And I started to make some good relationships with people up in Scotland. I went up there a few times. My very first meeting with the CEO on my own was I brought him some posh biscuits. And I kind of smiled and said, I suppose you think I'm here to kind of like ruin all your processes and like, cut you all out and stuff. And he went, oh, no. Accusation audit. I advise anybody who's rubbish with people and negotiate to read a book called Never Split the Difference.
Right.
And accusation audit is quite a cool thing he talks about. But you basically go the extreme version just to kind of like get them to back off a little bit because they didn't want me there. But I managed to kind of say, look, I am here to help. This is going to be a mess. It's probably going to get worse, to be honest. But we're going to end up with a process where people get what they want. Because at the moment, this is just not working. This is madness. I'm sure it works in a fashion. But, essentially, we're all kind of like leading to, well, you need a product manager. Well, who's the product manager? Well, I'll have to be it for the time being. Me. That was cool. And then there's another team I looked after, and I actually had to rebuild because they'd had some redundancies. Then the company changed their mind. This was the company up in London. My voucher codes. And started to get it firing. Start with the help of a really good agile coach, actually, because he'd put in a lot of groundwork. And it started to feel like a cohesive team. And again, another kind of career highlight was when one of the commercial guys saw what they'd done, like their Christmas advent calendar. I was like, do you know what, guys? I've never seen this us do something so cool. This is brilliant. And that felt really, really good because everything had got better, got to that point, because I never would have been doing that with the way they were working before as well. So, and that leads us on to things going really, really well. The department went through a bit of a change in Newport, and I was like, well, can I just go and run my own team and kind of like revolve around? We can be a satellite of GoCo, but I'd just rather do my own thing and work with the CEO of the company up in London. I was starting really well with, and we were both aligned with what we wanted to do. And I was given the green light late in 2019, and then in January I was made redundant. Completely left field. Wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I remember at the time
crushed me.
You saying that it was, I think you posted about on Facebook. You were just like, "Oh, big day today, and hopefully some big things on the horizon." And there was, they've made me redundant. Like, all right.
I think the original plan was, they got on of that, and then went, "Oh, do you know what? We want to get sold. Let's just make the balance sheet look a bit better. Cut some engineering that we don't need, management, but they're first on the chopping block." I was gutted for the other people because we kind of knew that they were probably going to go, and they looked at me in the room and were like, "Why are you here?" Like, I don't know. Crushed me. That honestly absolutely crushed me. I've never had that before. And I was broken by that. It happens to a lot of people in far less fortunate circumstances, but
it's still a big thing to happen to anyone at any point in their life, and you're not. It's not like you're free, single, and easygoing. You've still got two kids and a stepson.
Three kids.
But of course, it doesn't end there. Well, where did you go from Cwmbran?
Well, Alex, somebody introduced me to a guy. I can't remember what his name is. To a guy. Well, actually, there was obviously a bit of a redundancy payout, and it was, in fairness, the company was quite nice, more than it needed to be. But I was like, okay, and I actually, that was early 2020. We had just bought our first house. In October, a couple of months before. As well. And there was some event around 2020.
Something happened.
So if you remember.
My second kid was born.
That's what it was. Also, there was a global pandemic.
Something about a virus as well. Bit of a cold.
Didn't help.
Bit of a cold,
So I was like, okay, I'll get a job easily. I even like Skyscanner were a good example. I've never kind of heard a recruiter be so angry and spitting blood down the phone because he was like, you had that job, that you practically had that job. But I think Skyscanner were like, Holy crap. Flights are probably not going to be very popular for the Euros, so maybe let's cut back on the recruitment drive. And I just hit the market at the wrong time.
Right.
And then was like, obviously yourself, you introduced me to Gary, and then it was back to a startup again. Let's do startup stuff. I was doing other bits and pieces as well. Port of travel, back to do a startup again. It's probably smaller scale, less staff, less resources, but yeah, good fun doing that. Where does that take us up to? 2021 was it? Or was it late 2020?
That was late 2020, I think.
When it all started, and we really got going 2021.
2021, yeah. And I won't go into too much detail on Porter because I'm going to be chatting to Gary next week.
Ooh,
so
there we go.
I'll let him fill us in on the story of Porter. Although hopefully these will get released in sequence.
So we can tell the story of it was a brilliant idea, just let down by a crap CTO. Unfortunately, that's why
it was the timing. It was just bad timing. I think trying to launch a travel startup over a pandemic, and then it was. But also, it's just lots of other factors. I think with it, the amount of money that was required from a marketing point of view. Like we had a solid product there, but when you're going up against the likes of Booking.com and the likes of other people who, are the total amount of investment that Porter got, there were other places who had 3 times that amount just to spend on marketing it. So
I know it's the kind of story of my startup life. It's like. Not to blow smoke on my own backside because I recruited the right people. Ads, and we even with Porter, we got the right. Yeah, exactly. We got the right people involved, and we spent wisely on the tech stuff. But then that almost makes it you're almost setting yourself up for a fall, because unless you've got a much bigger budget for getting eyeballs on screen and getting versions. It's kind of pointless. Honestly, every kind of startup failure, every kind of startup learning is a learning for different reasons. So damn useful, and that should never be discounted.
Oh, for sure.
Like, the end of the road is not the end of that road. That's just like the end of a chapter. I know I sound like my mum because she'd always say things like this. Yeah, but you know what you're talking about, and she generally does actually, even though she has no idea about tech. But it's right. It's all learnings. And then the next one, you've got much bigger chance because you've learned some interesting lessons. I'm learning some lessons on the one I'm involved with now. That was where we were at Porter, and I guess I've just been doing the supercar instructing stuff and the 3D print stuff. Yeah, which I've talked yet.
So Porter, coming the other side of Porter now, which we will cover off in a future episode of this. I guess now we're looking at you've kind of come the other side of Porter, and you are managing a co-working space, Springboard.
Springboard, absolutely lovely here. It generally is. I'm quite proud of it. I've had the numbers are improving. This came about because obviously in the when I'd was gone back to work for myself, doing bits and pieces after GoCo, and still being crushed from that, working in a house, gaining weight in lockdown, doing your own business, completely split off from the outside world, wasn't having the best of effects on me. Mental health went properly into the toilet, disastrously, really badly. So I thought, hang on a second. There was that co-working space that we used in Springboard, which is the whole reason I came to Cwmbran in the first place was for Blurt. But we used to use a company here. And I said, are they still running? And they said, no, it's not at the moment because of the pandemic. And then somebody had clocked that they knew me from my Blurt days and went, hang on a second, we know you. We don't mind. If you want to be the anchor tenant, speak to IndyCube, and perhaps you run it for them to speak to them. So then I suddenly had for free a space outside the house. Slightly grotty little office, but didn't matter. I was at least getting out the house. Which was that and the Smith and Sniff podcast saved me. But then it was hard to get hold of the guy quite a lot. Who was I think had to manage loads of IndieCube sites all over Wales. So I was getting a little bit fed up, to be honest. But I kind of pitched this idea to a council and said, "Well, shall I run it?" And they said, "Well, we have to kind of go through like the tender process." And eventually, I think they got no response from him. And we're like, "Actually, I don't think he's interested." Another like a couple of weeks or something. If there's no other kind of tenders for it, it's yours. So they've helped quite a lot. They've to get it set up. As a little business, it's very slowly growing, but it's bit by bit by bit. And in fact, I quite like this bit of variety. Sometimes it's a bit overwhelming, but like I try and like different days, I'll try and work a bit on different parts of what I'm doing. Either it's the engineering, the AWS consultancy, Spring Hub. I haven't done a lot of 3D printing for a while, mind. But I've still got some orders that are backed up. And obviously the supercar instructing. That's like a part of the business, bizarrely. But yeah, it's keeping me busy. The supercar stuff, because I want to talk about that. Because everybody says, "Oh, how do you get into being a supercar instructor?" The experience days for everybody that's listening. So buy a voucher to drive a Lamborghini or whatever around Castle Cwmbran, and but people say, "Oh, how'd you get into it?" Literally, how I got into it was somebody I followed on Twitter because into car stuff said, "Is anybody in the racing community would like to do supercar instructing?" And I piped up and said, "I've got no experience, but I'm happy to do the training." And he was like, "You'll come down." My training was, there's a Batmobile, there's a customer, there's his card, off you go. I mean, that was my training, the Batmobile.
Okay.
Right, well, first of all, how do you turn a Batmobile on? In this case, it's, now it's Mulgrew on a switch that you have to turn, literally. In the Batmobile, and then, what was it the next day? Some big American red thing. Gran Torino, that's what it was.
Nice.
So it's taken people around for their experiences, but since then I've done a lot of days with them. I've done, and then another company, and now Silverstone. I've got some training booked in with Silverstone, and if I pass that, then I'll be going to Silverstone to do some work. I mean, that is not obviously right smack bang in the middle of IT engineering /
not at all. It's so far removed.
But it was quite useful. Because when one of my contracts was up at the beginning of this year, I was properly out of work. I went, "Oh, I'm sure something will turn up." And then, after the recruitment drive, insane recruitment drive, like at the end of last year, that kind of like that disappeared, and it was suddenly recruitment layoffs, leave. So I went onto the market right at the wrong time. I'm like, "Oh crap, I thought I'd get a job quite easily. Turns out not." So that was like a stopgap, and that was like February, March time, which suddenly then through the summer was just paying all the bills. So I was doing a lot of driving.
To be fair, a stopgap which involves driving supercars around a track is definitely more exciting than your spa stopgap.
That's true. Yeah. People trying to kill you because they can't drive. I think they definitely can. It's more exciting than somebody throwing cans of beans at your head, I guess.
I don't know. That seems quite fun. Well, not fun, but it adds a certain element of surprise to your day.
A bit of frisson. You don't actually get to drive them that much. That's the sad thing. You get to do the warm-up laps and the odd passenger lap. That's good fun. Sometimes when it's like taking kids out in the police interceptor, they're living life because they're getting driven fast. Not really fast, but they think they're getting driven fast in the police interceptor. But then you turn to a kid and go, was that fun? Was that fast enough? Yeah, all right. Whereas like adults have got a bit more. Adults are more scared. Because, I don't know. They've they know what can happen. Whereas a kid is like, oh, this is all right, not really care.
Yeah. When are you going to do some sick jumps like they do on Grand Theft Auto? Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. We're not doing those today.
Yeah, that's wrong car for that. Wrong suspension setup. It's been such a wild ride from that, the original Aberystwyth software degree, working in retail for a few years, then army, moving to Cardiff, then moving to Cambridge, moving to Swansea, then immediately moving to Cwmbran, and then now being back in Cardiff. Well, you're still in Cwmbran, but we worked together with Port Cardiff, and now owning a co-working space, and also teaching people how to drive race cars, as well as doing the Amazon Web Services consultancy, which I'll be honest, that makes sense as a lead on from now. So I won't go into that too much detail, but I think the other stuff that makes very little sense is just it's just such a journey, such a crazy journey to go through.
If I was to try and analyze why it's ended up like that, I think because my career path is, and I'm drawing like a squiggly line with my finger here. My career path has just been a mess. Yeah. It's just been because I've probably thrown myself at what needs to be done. Oh, I can do that. I'll do that. Oh, that's a challenge. Mm-hmm. Oh, that sounds like good fun. So I guess that's why I've got a bit of a weird career path.
Yeah, no, it's really I find it so interesting. Hopefully other people do as well. Just one final question of all right. If you could do it all again, if you could go back and start, is there anything you do differently, or any other avenues or paths that you'd like to pursue?
Yeah, and I think because this dawned on me, and I was really annoyed about it. Like 15 years later, I suddenly realised I should have done things in a slightly different order, and I wish it boils down to I wish I'd just talked to people and got advice, because they would have said, "Why are you doing that? That's stupid. Do that." I think that's where it stems from, because like the one decision, I was on track to go and be an army officer, fingers crossed, and I think that would have given me so much interesting life experience for a few years. Then would have come out, and then I could have done the business probably a bit better, with a bit of a wiser head. I'm just annoyed I never did that, because I would have. Now I even know more about it, would have been a fantastic career. Mm-hmm. But it just boils down to talk to people, get advice, use people as a sounding board. I don't think I've ever been very good at that. Hence, probably my crazy journey. Maybe if I had good advice, I wouldn't be on your podcast, because we're a much more straightforward path. But I guess I've had fun in the meeting.
It's not about having fun. It's not about having fun in the middle. It's
that's true.
Not the end point. The end point's the same for everyone. It's the bit in between that is that's what makes it really fun.
But definitely external sounding boards. Talk to people. Yeah.
Ah, wicked. Well,
that'd be my top tip to myself.
To yourself, previous you, past you. What would you say to past you? But no, that's really just such a journey of different things. But yeah, cheers for having a chat, Miles. And
no problem. I enjoyed that.
I also am very aware that I've got to go pick my kids up, otherwise I'm going to get a phone call from the school quite soon.
All social services. Yeah. I better let you go then.
But yeah. Brilliant to chat, mate. And
you too, mate.
All right, take it easy. Cheers, Miles. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to episode 7. If you've listened all the way through the episode, please consider subscribing to the podcast and leaving a review, maybe even sharing with your friends. If you've got a story you'd like to tell, feel free to get in touch. The email address is in the episode description, along with the links to some of the things we spoke about in the podcast today. I'll be back with another episode on Monday next week, so hopefully you'll be hearing from me again soon. Thanks, bye.